the only other way to kind of accelerate that cheat code is have Bitcoin. So I went to Tyler and Cameron and said, look, I know how to do this now. The only thing that's holding me back is capital. I know you're not going to give me 300 million, and I'm not asking for it. What I am asking for is about $5 million. We got to 4.5, but and I'm going to put that in Bitcoin, and I'm going to forget about it because I don't think I need that for the next 4 years, maybe 5 years. And do you know what? In 4 to 5 years, if I can get away not using it, that 5 million could be 20 million, could be 15 million. We know what Bitcoin does. I looked at the whole compound growth rate of Bitcoin, reflected the bull and bear markets. I was like, okay, if I've got this right, if this number's right, then every single league we are in, we will be the most well-capitalized team. And if it's 20 years to the Premier League, there's a chance we get to the Premier League as the most well-capitalized football club in the world. It's insane, right?
All right, guys, bang, bang. I'm here with Peter, the chairman of, is it Real Bedford or Real?
Real. Like Real Madrid.
Okay. You bought this soccer club, football club. Why? Why did you do this? And the crazier part, I think, is like it's working. You've now gotten $4.5 million invested from the Winklevoss twins. I think you've got a lot of other tricks up your sleeve. So, like, explain what the rationale here for this is.
Yeah, I mean, look, I told you about this when I was first going to do it 2.5 years ago. The best way to say it, look, my dream has always been to own my local football club. Where I live in Bedford, our football team's never been in the Football League. And so to explain the hierarchy to people who are listening, our Football League is you have promotion and relegation. If you're in the bottom 2 or 3 or 4, you get relegated to the division below, and it's brutal. But if you win a division, you go up. So it means
American sports should have this, by the way.
Yeah, but you're a socialist.
Yeah.
No, but it's weird, isn't it? You're a capitalist society with a socialist sports, and we're a socialist society with capitalist sports. But it's brilliant. It means you can go and buy a club from the very bottom, the very bottom of the English football pyramid, and you can get to the Premier League.
How much did you have to pay? Have you said it publicly?
I've never said that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to break the news now?
No, because just out of respect to the person I bought it from, but like it's nothing.
Okay.
like a cool car.
What was it a situation where like they were happy to give the problem to somebody else?
Yeah, because a lot of these clubs are community clubs. Somebody runs it for the community. They're not thinking about going up through the leagues. They're just thinking about local players having somewhere to play. And occasionally you get somebody comes in and buys a team and wants to take them up. But the coolest thing is you can do that. Look, nobody's ever done what we're doing, which is bottom to the top. Like Wrexham, who they just bought, Ryan Reynolds bought, used to be a huge team. But they bought them in the 5th tier, which is essentially, so the first 4 divisions, Premier League, Championship, League 1, League 2, that's considered the professional divisions. Below that's called non-league.
Okay.
And it's called non-league because it's not in the league and they're historically all amateur. That first layer now, that tier 5, is professional now, really. And those teams are trying to get into the Football League. But
and you're starting in 9.
We started in the 10th.
Oh, 10th.
Yeah,
okay.
And our lady started in the 5th.
Okay.
And so when I bought the club, I thought, my idea was like, can you take a team from the bottom to the top? And if you can, how do you do it? And it all comes down to money. Like my kind of strict view on this is every promotion is 70% your budget for your players, 25% budget for your manager, and 5% luck. In that you can have no budget and have the best manager in the world. You're probably not going to go up. It's just too hard. Or you could have the best budget in the world and a rubbish manager and he'll screw it up. So you kind of need both. You do get like outliers. When Leicester won the league, that was a huge surprise in the UK. No one expected it.
And just for the Americans, the manager is the coach, or is it like a GM or both?
No, it's a coach.
Okay.
So I think essentially I'm like the GM.
Okay. You're making decisions on players in terms of who's on the team, who's not on the team?
No. That's so the manager, I set the budget. Basically, these way, I'm everything off the pitch. He's everything on the pitch.
Got it. So you're like the business side, and then he's the team, the players. So it's almost like a coach and a GM is what the manager does.
Yeah, and he'll have coaches, but essentially the manager will coach as well, but he picks the team and runs it from the sideline. It's not like I remember watching the film Moneyball where he doesn't need to be there at the game once it's selected, right? He just goes off for a walk. The manager has to be there. But so I was like, how do you do this? Like every division, I know the budget you need in every division. How do you get that budget?
And what is the difference between League 10 sounds like no budget basically, and then like the top 2 or 3 leagues?
I mean, teams in the 10th tier will have some teams where there are no players being paid and they're just playing. Some are maybe getting £30-50 a week. The team's budget may be like 500. You probably won't get teams spending more than like 1,500 to 2,000. That would be the top level.
Okay.
And it can kind of go up about 50 to 100% each, but there's different ones. Like,
so you rolled in, just so we're clear, rolled into League 10. You're like, I'm a big baller. Like, we're gonna spend a little bit more than £1,000 a week.
Yeah, but you don't want to go too high. You go too high, you get the wrong players in, and they don't care. So it's a real delicate balance of having the right budget with the right players who care enough to turn in, week out, and want to win. Who in their head they want to get promoted. Okay. Versus getting people to just turn up and get paid and leave. So what happened was I had the club for 4 months at the end of a season. We tried that. We got some really good players in. Didn't make any difference. Had the wrong manager, wrong players, wrong mindset, wrong budget. I brought in this guy called Rob Sinclair, and he was an ex-professional footballer, and he reset everything for me. But the idea, I looked at it and said, how do you do this? How do you take from the top to the bottom? 300 million, you can do it.
$300 million.
300 million.
Like our pounds.
Pounds, either or. Yeah. You could do it. You could definitely do it because in that you're planning 50 million for a new stadium, all your infrastructure along the way, but also like if you get in the Championship and you want to get into the Premier League, it's going to cost you 30 million every time you ever go. And so you start doing up the sums, and then maybe you can do it for 200 million, but either way, it's 9 figures, right? And so I was like, right, I don't have 300 million.
But Cameron Tyler might.
Well, so actually, it's interesting. The short-term goal wasn't the Premier League. The short-term was Football League. Where I live in Bedford, we never had a team in the professional divisions. And in my head, I was like, maybe that's 20 million. I sat down with Cameron Tyler before I bought the team. And I was like, yeah, I've got this idea. I want to get my team in the Football League. And I think it was Tyler. I always attribute it to him. But to be honest, I still don't know which one's which. But I think I said to him, about the Football League. And he explained it. He said, straight away, off the bat, he was like, how'd you get in the Premier League? It's like, let me go away and think about it. So that's what I've been doing for the last 2 years, like figuring it out. But so I went away and thought, right, how does a local club make money? Like team next door, Bedford Town. Well, anyone who comes through the gate, who buys a ticket, a burger and a beer, that maybe brings in £15 per person. And maybe they get some local sponsors who maybe spend $1,000, couple of thousand. Maybe they put some events on at their place. I was like, cool. That's really hard work. You're going to have to grind to build a crowd, to get... beg borrow still from local sponsors to get their money. I was like, it's not going to work. It's just take forever. What if I make us the Bitcoin team? That was in my head. Okay, if I make us the Bitcoin team, I've got the platform, I've got the megaphone, I've got the podcast. So any episodes can have tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands listening. I've got a following on Twitter. Bitcoiners are crazy. If I make us the Bitcoin team and say this is our goal, what difference does that make? And it just changed everything instantly. I got Gemini as a shirt sponsor. I've got Luxor as a sponsor, Iron as a sponsor, Ledger. I've got all these companies who are willing to spend, not thousands, but maybe tens of thousands of sponsorship.
And just so people understand, I think people understand if somebody's advertising on television or a podcast or whatever, when they're buying a sponsorship with the team, what are they anticipating? Is it just brand awareness of like, hey, Gemini is on the shirt? Are they expecting people to go sign up for Gemini? Like when you have these conversations, what are they looking for?
I actually think it's one of those weird sponsorships. Like if they sponsor my pod, they want people to sign up. They want to get customers. I think with this, there's a little bit of that. I think there's a little bit of the prestige. There's only one team can be on the front of the Bitcoin team shirt, only one company, so they want that. And I think part of I think there's a little bit of like almost philanthropy in it. They're like, they want to help me. They're like, this is cool. We want to be part of this journey. So it's an interesting one. Now our rates are high. They're like a team maybe in the 5th tier or 4th tier, but I would argue we get as much exposure because what I decided to do was stream the games and be very noisy to create a lot of awareness. But anyway, so we had that. I knew the Bitcoiners would follow us internationally, and that's worked. We've sold over £200,000 of merch in 2 years. I'd imagine that's more than every team in our league put together, maybe the league above and below. And so making us the Bitcoin team was the game changer. I call it the cheat code. I mean, I did my conference, I called cheat code. It's a cheat code. You get access to this network that supports you and wants you to win and wants to be part of it. And so what that meant is we had the money, but still long term, good sponsors and like this crazy Bitcoin international community who will fly to, by the way, some people just fly to Bedford from America. They come to Bedford for a game. But anyway, and so
Americans are used to the opposite happening.
I know. It's odd though. People in Bedford are like, what is going on here? Who's this guy from Arkansas?
Yeah.
So anyway, it meant we had the financial backbone to do the first few promotions, but you got the leagues, you need a training center, you need a ground. If we keep moving up quickly, it's going to get more and more expensive. And so the only other way to kind of accelerate that cheat code is have Bitcoin. So I went to Tyler and Cameron and said, look, I know how to do this now. The only thing that's holding me back is capital. I know you're not going to give me 300 million, and I'm not asking for it. But what I am asking for is, I think we started negotiating around 5 million. I was like, about $5 million. We got to 4.5, and I'm going to put that in Bitcoin, and I'm going to forget about it because I don't think I need that for the next 4 years, maybe 5 years. And do you know what? In 4 to 5 years, if I can get away not using it, that 5 million could be 20 million, could be 15 million. We know what Bitcoin does. And in that year, I might need to use 1 million of that. And over that next 4 years, maybe over that next 4 years, I need to use 5 million of that. And I'm left with 15, that maybe becomes 50. But I looked at the whole compound growth rate of Bitcoin. And then I reduced the rate. I went with a kind of moderate, conservative kind of reducing compound annual growth rate. Reflected the bull and bear markets. I was like, okay, if I've got this right, if this number's right, then every single league we are in, we will be the most well-capitalized team. And if it's 20 years to the Premier League, there's a chance we get to the Premier League as the most well-capitalized football club in the world. It's insane, right? But that's the plan.
It's not that crazy. I guess the only thing is, one, you got to make the decision now. Right? So you got long-term thinking, obviously, which is a huge piece of Bitcoin, and it sounds like you're doing that. The second thing is, when do you sell the Bitcoin? Right? And a lot of that is like, do you need the money or do you not? And I bet that there's some nerd out there who's smarter than you and I both combined who could figure out you may actually want to sell sometimes when you don't need the Bitcoin. You don't need the cash because of the market cycles. So if you're like, use hindsight as the example, at the end of 2021 would have been a pretty good idea to sell some Bitcoin if you knew that you were going to sell Bitcoin in the next 2 years. Right. And so timing markets is nearly impossible, but I almost look at it as the same way that a corporation may hedge foreign currencies or something like that. You got to get really smart about the treasury management to be able to, convert Bitcoin into pounds in anticipation of when you're going to need it, so that, God forbid, you don't sell Bitcoin at 16,000 when, 8 months before you could have sold it at 70,000.
Hey, listen, if I can find a smart person to do that, I will. And look, a lot of this based on the idea that Bitcoin continues to grow, but I just have a fundamental belief it will. They're not going to stop printing money. And, there's still only 21 million. And so I still have that fundamental belief. And I would like to think I never sell the Bitcoin. I would like to think the borrowing and lending markets mature to the point where you're actually using the asset with more well-known institutions, your Fidelities, your JP Morgans, where it's people you would trust to lend it to, not lend it to put up as collateral to borrow against, because we don't want to pay the cap gains and we don't want to sell the Bitcoin.
What do you think about the people in the Bitcoin community who say, all kind of credit is bad, all lending is bad? A huge part of traditional finance, obviously, is lending. And I have a hard time seeing a world where lending is not part of finance. But there's definitely people who would say, it's blasphemous to say I'm going to put the Bitcoin to a bank and I'm going to borrow against it. So how do you think about, the pros and cons?
I mean, I do think there's too much debt in the world, and I think people take debt for the wrong reasons. And I think credit cards are a vulture business, but I wouldn't own my house without being able to get a mortgage. And I wouldn't have bought cars before without that. And I wouldn't have been able to set up businesses without borrowing. I think leveraging debt is a good thing for building wealth and building capital. I think it's bad for lifestyle. Do not get a credit card for your lifestyle, and do not get a loan to go on holiday. But if you've got a business idea and you can borrow money, you can accelerate that growth. Yeah, absolutely. And look, there's always going to be borrowing. Whatever you say, you could ban it. But I could still come to you, Pomp, and say, look, look, dude, I've got a business idea. I need to borrow 5 Bitcoin. You're like, okay, cool. This is the return I want. So it's always going to exist. I just think it's going to change under a Bitcoin standard. Certain types of leverage are going to go.
So you've got the men's team.
Yep.
The men's team, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like when you first told me about it, I was like, oh, this is interesting. I don't know really that much about football, but let's see, kind of what happens. I think that you're smart and you'll figure that out. But then what it looks like is you've actually used that as like the tip of the spear to do a whole bunch of other things. So you have a women's team.
Yep.
You have a bar. I saw AI generated plans for a stadium. I have seen now a fund to invest in kind of young, promising people in Bedford. Like there's a bunch of stuff that now is kind of almost coming off the back or drafting off of the team. So describe maybe like the non-men's team activities and like where that's coming from.
Today's episode is brought to you by Meanwhile. Meanwhile is the world's first licensed and regulated life insurance company built for the Bitcoin economy. Operating on the Bitcoin standard, they do everything in Bitcoin. You pay in Bitcoin. They pay claims to your family in Bitcoin. You take out policy loans entirely in Bitcoin when you need liquidity. Meanwhile, Bitcoin life insurance has redefined what it means to hodl. Protect your family from life's uncertainty in a broken financial system. Build intergenerational Bitcoin wealth while the cost of living skyrockets in dollar terms. Get all the tax and legal benefits of life insurance now in Bitcoin. They are actively binding policies today. Whether you are a long-term Bitcoiner or are just considering it for the first time, a Bitcoin whole life policy could make sense for your wealth plan. Visit their website, meanwhile.bm, to join the waitlist and to learn more about the world's first Bitcoin life insurer. Again, that's meanwhile.bm. Go check them out today.
Think of it as a chessboard. And so I'm thinking about what I'm trying to do with this football team as a game of chess, right? And so, and I'm not, I could start attributing bits to pieces, like maybe the team is the king, which I want to protect. But the truth is, I'm just thinking of it like a chessboard. I'm moving pieces around. So the next thing we did was the ladies' side for a couple of reasons. Commercially, it's a good idea. It's not some like woke agenda. We need to have a ladies' team. Commercially, it's a good idea. We make money off our ladies' team, and it means half the population of Bedford is female, and they see that we're supporting females football. Secondly, we should do it because girls want to play football, and there was a time when they were banned from playing football, so we should do it. But the men's team, they won a league and cup double consecutive years. The league is promotion, cup is fun, but it's still prestigious. So they've gone from 10th to 9th, 9th to 8th. We're now in the 8th tier. The ladies, we took over Propy last year in the 5th tier. They won the league, the county cup, and the league cup. It's called a trebles. Never happens. So they're now up into the 4th tier. And so the fact that we've gone for 3 promotions and won 3 promotions, I think I know what I'm doing in terms of the algorithm. I think the algorithm's right. The rest is all chess pieces. So we first started a hardship fund. Well, we started investing in youth football. So there's 30 boys teams, 30 girls teams, and we just give them money and support. But then we set up the the hardship fund. And we set up a hardship fund. So any kid in Bedford who wants to play football, whose parents can't afford it, they can go to the fund, they'll pay the fees or buy them football boots.
And how much is the fee for a kid to play? Like
a couple £100.
Okay.
It's not an expensive thing. Our fund's like £12,000. It's not a lot, but that we know that every kid in Bedford who wants to play football can. And that for us is doing our community work. And it's nice to do it. It's good to do it. And it's a chess piece to show the town that like we care for the town. We need you to care for us, because part of the sustainability is growing your crowd. When I took over, we used to get 40 people at a game. And then season 1, we averaged 180 with I think our biggest crowd was 321. Last year, we averaged 260 and our biggest crowd was 1,000. So it's going up. I want a crowd of 2,000 next year, an average of 500. I got to keep trying doubling it every year.
How many people are in Bedford?
The town's 100,000. The kind of metropolitan area is 174,000. It's a good. I mean, Burnley were in the Premier League with 90,000. So it's a good base, and there's not many teams around us. But we need the town to get behind this. We want the town to support it, love it, and come to games, buy burgers, buy a shirt, and support us. And so it's almost like my trade with the town is like, I'm going to do loads for this town as much as I can. I'll help this town as much as I can. You help me and come to games. So we invest in youth football, boys and girls. We have the hardship fund. Then I bought the bar. And the bar is the coolest bar in Bedford. And I didn't buy it as a money-making exercise because the amount of work for the return compared to everything else isn't worth it. But I knew it'd be a lot of people come to the bar, right? And they want to know who owns the bar. And they're like, oh, that's the Royal Bedford owner. Oh, that's Pete McCormack. And it's really hard to explain it without sounding like a dick, but I knew if I wanted the town to be successful, I kind of needed to be known in the town. And people were like, oh, who's that guy? That's Pete McCormack. Oh, he's got the football team. And so I started like placing chess pieces around so people will know who I am. And then because you've seen Glengarry again, Ross, right? You'll always be selling. And so when people come to me and they ask me about the bar or they ask me about the football club, my first thing I say is, have you been to a game? No, come to a game. We're playing Saturday. And it works. They come. So the bar was a chess piece. We use it as well for our conference. We use it for our end award season. We use it for a lot of things. So it's a useful tool, but it's a chess piece. The conference, again, I don't need to be doing a conference. It's a pain in the ass. You've done them. But for that weekend, every hotel in the town is sold out. The bars are full. The restaurants are full. And then we have a record crowd at the football, and the football team, rather than taking £3,000 on Saturday, takes £20,000. And all these people become loyal Royal Bedford fans. Another nod to the town. The local paper writes about it. We're opening a cafe. Again, another chess piece. The chess piece for that is it's right in the middle of the town centre, the shopping district, and it means right in the centre it's going to have a big logo that says Royal Bedford. So people are like, oh, there's Royal Bedford. But it's never going to make money as a club shop. That's why we did a cafe. So you come in, you buy a cup of coffee. It's got the Royal Bedford logo on. While you're in there, you find out about the club. It'll be the best coffee. We're sourcing the best coffee from London. I think it's El Salvador coffee, actually, as well. And we're going to make the best cup of coffee you can get. And it's going to be really well priced. And you're going to find out about the football. We just partnered with a netball team. Do you know what netball is?
I have no clue. I saw you announce this, and I was like, all right, I'm out of my league right now.
So that's huge in England, Australia, New Zealand. It's a huge spot. It's a bit like...
Is it like handball?
Well, it's like basketball, but like lacrosse is big here and no one in the UK knows what it is.
Yeah.
Netball's big in these territories. It's like basketball, but it's really only played by girls. My daughter plays it, but there's no backboard.
Okay.
So they've got to get their shot right. It's a net on a pole, but you don't bounce the ball and you can't run with it. So you get the ball and you move and you pass it.
Got it.
So
it's kind of like ultimate frisbee.
Yeah,
right?
A bit like that. Yeah,
but you got to throw the ball and got it. Okay.
Every young girl plays it.
Okay.
And there's a local team called Team Beds. They're brilliant. They're the best in the county. But like anyone at the moment, money is an issue. So I said, well, look, we'll give you some money. In return, you become Royal Bedford Netball. And so everybody knows them as Team Beds. Everyone will see the Royal Bedford. It's just branding.
Yeah.
And we'll help them grow what they're doing. There's a local rugby league side we want to do it with. If you go into Europe, Barcelona, they have a basketball team, handball team. They have everything. And we want to be the same. Again, another chess piece. I'm about to buy a building, which I'm going to turn into kind of like a Soho house in Bedford, but like not membership, just a nice place. Another chess piece. Yeah. And I set up the fund. Yeah, this girl came to us. Well, her dad came to us and said his daughter's a really good swimmer. She's trying to raise money to go to the Junior World Swimming Championships in Brazil. It's £1,000. I was just like, here you go. She won 3 medals. I was like, oh, this is cool. Right, we'll set up a fund. So we took the profits from the conference, we put it into the fund. It's like 51 grand. I've had like endless letters from people, kids who want to do so. It's all been sport, really. But again, another chess piece. I think with philanthropy, it can be a trade, right? You can say, listen, I'm helping you, you help me. Let's make Bedford better. And so all these things are chess pieces to get it into place, and it's all kind of working. But in the background, I'm in a public war with the mayor, who's like fighting against
what
us.
happened? What happened with this? I saw you sending some letters, and it sounds like there's corruption.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay.
I'd say stupidity. I mean, look, I just don't know what his game is. My suspicion is he wanted the role of mayor out of prestige. His family's got loads of money. His dad's called Tesco Ted. He sold loads of land to Tesco. They're farmers. He went to one of the private schools, and I think he's like Bedford aristocracy. He's just a pompous old idiot, and he's just come in. He hasn't realised his mandate is to do the best thing for the town. I think he just does what he wants. It's really funny. We should have filmed it. He's friends with the chairman of the rival club, who was shit scared of us. And they had a meeting, and afterwards he cancelled our lease, which means we'd have no ground. And I was like, what are you doing?
Meaning like the field?
Yeah, nowhere to play. finished the club. I was like, what are you doing? Look at all the things we're doing. We're good for Bedford. Oh, we'll move you somewhere else. I was like, it takes 4 years to build a stadium. We need a lease extension. He finally did it. And then he tried to ban women playing at the ground.
I saw that.
Called him out on that. He offered to remove it. And I said, no, I'm ceasing negotiations with you. You've got to get somebody else to do it. Then he went out to the press and lied and said it was a drafting error. Like, he's a moron. I've told him he should resign. I might run for mayor in 3 years and just take him out, just because he's clearly and obviously bad for the town. He's unqualified. He's incompetent. He's out of touch, and he's compromised. So he's got to go. He's bad for the town. But there's other things happening. Like, it's like, do you ever feel like you're in the simulation?
No,
I do, because I don't believe I deserve to live this life. But anyway, so we're doing all this. You know, no one had heard of Bedford before, you know, in our communities. Yeah. So all this happens. Then we get this announcement. Universal Studios are building their first theme park in the UK in Bedford.
What?
I swear to God, it's 5 minutes from my house. They've bought 500 acres, 5 minutes from my house, and they're building a theme park there.
Why do you think that they're doing that?
Well, so I think they tried to buy land near London, and when they found out it was Universal, the price went up. Yep. But Bedford has this unique thing in that you have these two motorway spines that come up from London, and they go either side of Bedford. Bedford's in the middle.
For America, that's highways.
Yeah, two highways. But there's a highway that connects them, and Bedford's in the middle.
Got it.
So we got lots of things like Amazon logistics set up there.
It's strategically located from a geographic standpoint.
Yeah, and then there's a train that goes right past us from London, which is 40 minutes. So it's a good location. It's got another airport near it, and it's got easy access, and they got the land cheap. And so, yeah, it's so funny. The Daily Mail. Do you know the Daily Mail?
Yeah.
Yeah, they wrote an article. I think it was titled something like, "What the hell is going on in Bedford?" And it basically, half of it was Universal, half of it was Winklevoss billionaires, co-owners. And so everything is just pointing in the right direction for this to work. And so, yeah, I don't know, I'm rambling now.
What could go wrong? Like, how does this not work?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I don't think about it enough, but I do think about it. Football's a weird business. You know business, right? You know business. If you understand a P&L, understand a cash flow, you understand your inputs, your output price, you treat your staff well, and you manage all those effectively, and you've got a business that's viable, you're going to be fine. So if you open a coffee shop up in New York, and you've got the right rent, the right product, and you've got your costs right, you'll be successful. Mm-hmm. The reason most businesses fail is they get one of those wrong. Like, either they've got a business that's unviable, or they've got it in an area that's unviable, or they're bad at managing the numbers. Mm-hmm. Football's a weird business. You can get all those numbers right on Saturday afternoon. Even the team can play brilliant. The ref makes a bad decision. The goalkeeper makes a mistake. You don't win the game. You don't get the 3 points. You don't get promoted. Mm-hmm. Like, this season, we had like a McEnroe Borg battle between us and another team called MK Irish.
Okay.
We became rivals.
They suck.
This year. Yeah. So first game of the season, we played them. We beat them 1-0, but they were the better side. They were much better side. We then played them in the FA Cup, and I think we slightly edged it, but they won. We then played them in the FA Vars. We won 5-0, and then we had a 0-0 draw. But all season, it was us two racing away. There was one period where we both were winning every week, like 15, 16 in a row or something, and we could never get away from them. They were always like 3-6 points behind us. And then we had a little wobble, and they were still behind us, but they had played less games, which if they'd won, they would have gone in the league. Then they had a wobble, and we closed it out. But the gap between us and them was 6 points. Between them and the next team was like 15, 16.
Got it.
They don't get promoted because they're second. They go into the playoffs, which is like a semi-final and a final knockout. They lose. They're out. So they did all that hard work, and yet a team who got less points over the season went up. So you can do everything right and just not get promoted. And if you keep not getting promoted, you're not hitting your goal. Mm-hmm. We can bring crowds in. We can bring sponsors in. But how many, like, it's fun now. We're winning leagues. What happens if we don't get up next year? People might be, all right, cool. They'll do it the year after. What if we get stuck there for 4 years? Mm-hmm. people get a bit bored, stop coming, the sponsors are less interested. So there's a real pressure to get promoted, which is why and to do that consecutively is hard. So I've got to be very good at growing the business of the club. So that's something that can go wrong. Infrastructure could hold us back. If we go too quickly and we don't have the right ground at the right time, you can get promoted and the league say you're not allowed to come up. You haven't got enough seats. That's a tricky thing.
Mm-hmm. And so are you going to try to, like in America, and probably elsewhere as well, but in America specifically, building the stadium has become a very big business. So a lot of, for those that don't know, there's a lot of people who go buy these teams. There's actually a gentleman, Philip Anshu. A buddy of mine has a podcast, and what he does, he goes look for investors that most people don't know. So he's not trying to talk about the Elon Musk as an entrepreneur or Warren Buffett as an investor. He's trying to find people who've been very, very successful but are kind of fly under the radar. And so Philip Anshu is one of these guys who he owns AEG, which is the Anshu Entertainment Group. And what he realized early on, and he had learned from somebody, was if you go by these second and third market teams, and then you go to the local city and you say to them, hey, we have a basketball team. We want to build a basketball arena. We're going to put businesses, we're going to bring people in, we're going to do all this stuff, but I need tax breaks. I need concessions. I need, all this stuff. And so essentially the cities will do that because they look at it from an economic development standpoint. And it's been a very, very successful thing, including there's many people who argue that some of these NBA owners actually have made more money on the real estate than they're making on the teams. Right now, again, is that true? Is that not? My brother probably would know better than me. But for you all, somebody's screwing with the lease, like you have all these issues. Yeah. Do you think that eventually along this path, you've got to go build the actual infrastructure?
Today's episode is brought to you by Propy. Imagine a world where you could buy and sell your home, wallet to wallet. With PropyKeys, you can mint your home address and upgrade it to a real-world asset. This not only protects your home's title from fraud, but when you are ready to move, you can sell it through an NFT auction as well as through the traditional way. There's optionality here. PropyKeys is part of the Propy ecosystem. Their mission is to make home ownership more efficient, affordable, and user-friendly. PropyKeys is a fun entry point to placing title on the blockchain. Now, anyone can start their on-chain journey by minting home addresses via PropyKeys and staking them for profit until they are ready to sell their home. Visit PropyKeys.com to learn more. Again, that's PropyKeys.com to learn more.
I mean, we've got to build a stadium. We're started now, but we're in this position where we can't build the Premier League stadium now, but you got to plan for your long-term goals. So you have to build a stadium in a modular way whereby the stands can be replaced and made bigger as you go. But the problem is we can't get tax breaks because councils don't really have the ability to give tax breaks. They can do a small amount on business rates. They're all broke, so they can't invest in it. You can do things like if you build a stadium, McDonald's might want to be there and they'll give you some money towards it. But really it's usually a private project. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. We just need Bitcoin to go to 1 million, and then Cameron and Tyler want to have the Winklevoss Stadium, and then we'll figure that one out.
Gemini grounds.
The Gemini Arena. But look, we're on that now. My brother works on this. A bit like you, I work with my brother. He's just like on it hardcore. But it is a real challenge. Other things that can go wrong. I think they're the main ones. I mean, the only thing I worry about is not winning leagues, And so my job every time for both my managers is to start the season with them having everything they need. So I do this thing. I work a year ahead, So start this season, both managers have a budget to get the squad they want, which they say will get them a squad that can compete for the league. I've got them the training facilities they need. I've got them the kit and equipment they need for their physios, etc. As soon as this season starts, I'm done. I'm working on next season. Mm-hmm. And I'm working so hard because my budget's going to go up. I want my teams to go hybrid professional, which means the young players train every day because they don't have a job, and the senior players train midweek. Most teams don't do that for 2 divisions above, but I want to do it next year, so we've got an advantage on them when we go in. Mm-hmm. But that means I need to, if our budget this year is, let's say, £880,000, next year is probably going to be like 1.2 million. Where's the extra 380? Is it 380? 300,000 coming from? Mm-hmm. So I'm on that now. So, what what usually happens is the season ends, we win the trophy, we have a beer. The next day I say to the manager, what do you need for the start of the season? They say, I need this. Nobody's ever done this at the pace we're trying to do it as well. And look, we will stumble. My plan was the Football League in a decade. That was 6 promotions in 10 years. We've done 2 in 2. So we've got to do 4 and 8 now. Next 8 years. I think it's fair to try and do each one in 2 years. My goal is to make sure every year we have a budget for the players that can win that league. It's hard, Pomp. It's hard. You know, some teams...
Where do you find the players? Are you like putting an all calling, like anyone in the world who's good at this, like come show up and we'll try you out and see?
It's the manager. He has a certain style of football he plays. He plays a really good football for this level, and he knows the player he wants. You get to the end of the season, he's got people he's identified. He gets in touch. You know, some people...
And how much are you paying the players?
Do you know what? I wouldn't share that because the only thing you'll see the presentation put out, I redacted the budgets. I don't want people to know our budget because it's competitive knowledge, and you know people always react to it
in terms of what you're paying players.
But these are part-time players who will be on some multiple of hundreds of pounds, from 100 to maybe a few hundred
per week.
Per week, yeah.
So just let's just use round numbers. Somebody could make, I don't know, 10 to 30,000 pounds a year playing if it was all year long.
Yeah, so they tend to get paid during the season, so about 40 weeks. So they tend to get paid about 40 weeks, but it starts to change, right? So maybe next year we might have some people who are on 52-week contracts and they get paid if they get injured. We don't pay people if they get injured at the moment, but some of the players are like, look, if I'm not going to come and play for you and get injured and not be paid, so I have to prepare for that. But the really interesting thing is when you get to like levels 5 and 6 and you start to go full time, you've got all these players who are brilliant players who won't go full time, and the reason being they might have an £80,000 a year job. They're not going to go quit their £80,000 a year job to earn £30,000, £40,000 a year playing football. It's just why would they? That
makes sense, yeah.
So what they tend to do is they keep their full time job and they join the teams that are maybe hybrid full time. And they'll pick up, you know, £400, £500, £600 a week playing football. So add to their £80,000 a year, they're doing that on football as well.
Yeah,
so
now they're making £100.
Yeah, and so like there's so many players who could be playing higher who they just don't do it. And these transitions, they're hard. And growing, you know, we're trying to do it sustainably without losing money. I don't want to spend any Winklevoss money on player wages. That's for infrastructure. So to grow your revenue. Yeah, I've essentially this year, I've got to bring in another 300,000. That's incremental. That's more than some teams will spend in a whole season. And so I'm out there. This is why I'm in the US. I'm going to New York. I'm visiting sponsors. I'm telling the story. I'm talking to you. I'm making the Bitcoin community like this and be a thing because, you know, the sponsorship game, people will sponsor you, but they want awareness. So I've got to drive the awareness. And so yeah, I mean, it's a lot, Pop.
What can people do to help you that maybe don't live near Bedford? Maybe they have a job and they can't leave to go to a game or something like that. What can they do?
Yeah, buy merch and just follow the team. Just get behind the team because it's certainly if you're a Bitcoiner, you want this team to be a success because if it is powered by Bitcoin. It is because we had a Bitcoin treasury and we had Bitcoin companies behind us. It's because we as a Bitcoin community went, this is our club. I can do all the work, but if Cameron Tyler or Nick from Luxor or the guys at Iron don't go, yes, our club as well, and give me sponsorship money, I can't get the players. If Edgar in Minneapolis doesn't he does a meetup every Saturday at 7:00, they get to a brewery and they watch our game together. Like 10 of them. And then
7 a.m.?
7 a.m.
That's something that happens in Minneapolis is 7 a.m. at the brewery.
Yeah, they probably were already going.
Yeah.
But
shout out to Edgar.
Edgar comes his annual holidays to Bedford now. He comes.
Hilarious.
We made him a commentator at the game. He runs up and down the pitch with his scarf. But buy a hoodie. That's £50 for a hoodie. Buy a jersey. Buy a scarf, follow the results, get behind it. That's what people can do because I'm not doing this for money. There's no world, I don't care if I end up with, if I ended up with 1% of the club, with 100 to 1 voting rights, and they're in the Premier League, I'm the happiest man. I don't need to make any money from this, right? This is purely a dream for my team to try and be in the Football League originally, and then just to create history by getting into the Premier League. Like, if this happens, someone will make a film about it. I know. And
are you guys filming it now?
Our guy Kurt.
A little bit.
Yeah, we're taking Kurt on full time to do that, because the amount of stuff we've missed by not recording it, we've had just absolute gold moments. But the incremental benefit from the town, we have a Premier League team. Everybody in the world will know of Bedford. Okay. And then, so what does that mean? Well, that means when people in Korea or Australia or America are following football, they're like, there's a team from Bedford. And when they come on holiday to the UK, some of those are going to come to Bedford, maybe go to Universal, and they're going to come to the ground and they're going to spend money in the town. And so what this does, this creates jobs, opportunity, and prosperity in Bedford. And so there's this symbiotic relationship between my dream and opportunity where I live for the people locally.
And what is the people's reaction? I'm assuming most of them like this.
It's a mixture of...
Okay.
Well, look, there's a lot of people that still don't know this is going on. You can go in the town centre and say to people, what do you think of Royal Bedford? They'll be like, what? Yeah, even though everything we've done, how noisy we've been, people still haven't heard of us. But generally speaking, it's almost universally positive, with a bunch of, what the fuck is going on here? What do you mean the guys in the social network are co-owners, and there's billionaires who own our club, and then there's this very small contingent of people who support Bedford Town, our rivals, who hate us. Everything we do, they hate. They just hate us.
Why? Is it just because they want the opposite team? Like, you guys play in the same league and play each other?
No, they're one above us. So I tried to buy them first. They said no. And so I was just very public. I was like, well, your plan isn't going to work, and we'll be a bigger club. And we will be. Like, objectively, it's very obvious we'll be.
I never even heard of them before.
Hey, we are the 2 closest clubs in the country. There's a fence that separates us. And so they just hate us. And it's a thing in football. You always hate if you're a Man U fan, you hate City. If you're a Liverpool fan, you hate Everton. If you're Arsenal, you hate Tottenham. We're Bedford. We're Royal Bedford, they're Bedford Town. We've never played each other.
Oh, interesting.
And with 3 chances this year: FA Cup, FA Vars, and County Cup. They're the 3 chances.
Would you guys win?
It'd be tough. I mean, they're going up to a higher league. They've got good players. We'd give them a good game, but I'd love us to win. But most of all, I want the game to happen for the town, because it'll be a sellout. It'll be chaos. There'll be fights. People throwing beer at each other. It'd be like absolute carnage. So...
only an Englishman could say it'll be great for the town. There'll be fights.
It'll just be fun, but it will sell out. But yeah, they're the only people who dislike it. The mayor doesn't like us. The council a little bit don't like us.
Is it because it's change?
Yeah, like, who moved my cheese?
Yeah,
my cheese back. It's change. I think also for the mayor, he's probably not. He just went into this role of prestige, and he's probably didn't expect, or not used to, somebody who just doesn't care who he is and is willing to tell him to fuck off publicly. Yeah. And I am. He can fuck off. I don't care about him. And so he's not used to that. So he certainly doesn't like us. There's some rugby fans locally probably don't like the fact that football's taking the shine off it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And so yeah, mainly almost universally positive. People, like, if you live in a town that nobody has heard of, and then suddenly people from all over the world are traveling to it, and they're spending money in your business, and you've got a team going up through the leagues, it's exciting, and people like it.
Where can we send people to check out either merch, watch the live stream?
RealBedford.com, RealBedford.com. When do we get you out to a game?
I'll definitely come, 100%.
Yes.
I've saved my dumb American question for the end.
Okay.
Why do so many of the soccer/football clubs use Real in the front of the name?
Actually, it's only Spanish teams.
But you're not Spanish.
I know, I'll come to that.
Right.
So, Real is Spanish for Royal. So it's Royal Madrid, or Royal Sociedad, or Royal Betis. So when I bought the team, we were called Bedford FC, and the next door was Bedford Town, and people used to get them confused. So I was like, I've got to change the name. And I was in America, and I went to watch Miami play, Inter Miami, which is Beckham's team. Inter Miami comes from the Inter Milan. So we took the Inter from Inter Milan and mixed it with Miami and went Inter Miami. I was like, that's cool. I'm going to go Royal Bedford. But it's kind of like, ours is more of a joke because like Bedford is just like Miami is just a beautiful city. And Milan is a beautiful city. So they kind of go together. Madrid and Bedford are opposite. And so, yeah, I just did it. And it's the kind of name, it's a funny story to this as well. It's the kind of name so if you play five-a-side football, which is like in the evening with your friends, five-a-side, it's the kind of name you give your five-a-side team or your fantasy team. Mm. And I just thought it would always be funny if we went up through the leagues that, one day we'll get drawn out of the hat for the FA Cup and like a famous footballer will have to say Royal Bedford. But it's a really funny story. So when I came up with the name, I was like, this is cool. I ordered all the merch, like tens of thousands of merch, got everything ready, went to the Football Association where you have to register your team. There was already a Royal Bedford.
No way.
Yeah, a Sunday League side. The bottom tier of Sunday League football. So I had to buy the name off them.
Wow. But now you got it.
Now I got it.
All right.
Thanks, Paul.
RealBedford.com.
RealBedford.com.
I'll come to a game.
Yes.
Hopefully you don't ask me to play.
Jason Williams keeps asking to play.
He's good.
He's an old man now.
No. He's good.
He's an old man. Come on, what is he?
No, I've seen him play. He's good.
He's like 49, 50?
Nah, he's like 22. You should definitely let him play. If for nothing else, if you want eyeballs, if he plays, for sure people will watch. And if he scores a goal, you'll never hear the end of it.
Dude, I'm everything off the pitch.
All right, we'll do it again soon.
Thank you, Pomp. Appreciate this.